समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
National Interest this week explores the question of how Pakistan thinks, and we do it through that picture in the Oval Office in White House. Donald Trump in the middle, flanked by Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to his right and Field Marshal Asim Munir to his left. This is the most defining geopolitical image for us in India from our vantage point. As one who sees the world often through the prism of old Indian film music, this might make me instinctively start humming that old song, Duniya Badal Gayi, Meri Duniya Badal Gayi, the world has changed. See how my world has changed, sung by Shamshad Begum from the 1950 Dilip Kumar Nargis Munawwar Sultana classic, Babul. The reason I want to do so, or even commend it to you, isn't just because Shakil Badauni's poetry then took you into a world of self-pitying melancholy and heartbreak, because this is not that situation. This is not where this picture is leading us. Geopolitics, particularly when it comes to powers as consequential as India and the US, are more complex than the usual Bollywood love triangle. There are many factors at play. One, the US relationship with Pakistan is older and formally tighter than with India. While the US might have cooled off on Pakistan after finding and killing Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad, the organic relationship remained. The US never dropped Pakistan from the list of major non-NATO allies. Check out the NATO website. India never got onto it, nor would ever be an applicant for it. While the US under any president will value India for its size, stature, growth, stability, and rising comprehensive national power or CNP, they know India will never be what the sole superpower always needs, a client state. It needs a bunch of client states, some key client states in every region. India will never be one of those. Pakistan has been one since 1954 when it signed on to US-led SEATO, Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. To that extent, what Munir has achieved now with Trump is a return to that normal, ironing out the post-Abbottabad crisis. That's why that Duniya Badal Gayi metaphor doesn't quite apply. Further, in the subcontinent, another expression has gained strategic currency lately, new normal. What this picture represents is actually the return of the old normal in the US view on the subcontinent. In 2016, Prime Minister Modi had talked about diplomatically isolating Pakistan. At this point, that project is in abeyance. If we in India shake off this immediate disappointment and start thinking like grown-ups again, this picture actually will give us a much better insight into how Pakistan survives, occasionally thrives, and always thinks. The fact is, another Pakistani chief visited the White House with his Prime Minister not long ago. It was General Qamar Javed Bajwa with Imran Khan in July 2019. But then it was clear that the Prime Minister was in front and the chief sat back. Now the elected Prime Minister cannot even go for an official foreign visit without the Field Marshal sitting alongside. We have also seen this in Tianjin and Riyadh. This return to status quo, only being emphasized more visually now with this picture, proves many of us Pakistan watchers for decades wrong. I was wrong, therefore, when writing on Munir's fifth star in national interest a few weeks back, of which I will share a link with you. You will also see a screenshot on your screens. I hark back on Nawaz Sharif's old argument that Pakistan had to choose between being a partridge and a quail, Teetar or Bater. as in being governed by the army or an elected government. He said you can't have one having one power, one the other. You can't have a bit of this and a bit of that. He had said bravely in 1993 as he took the train back home to Lahore from Rawalpindi after being summarily fired by the establishment despite his large majority. The picture of the trio in the White House now tells you three things. One, that this is the system in Pakistan. With the army in control, with a subservient prime minister, it would get elected, and it can get anybody elected, and if the person it wants elected is not elected, it will make sure someone else becomes the prime minister. That power the Pakistani army will never give up. In the past, military dictators have even experimented with getting partyless prime ministers elected in fixed elections. Think Ziaul Haq and Junejo, Musharraf and Shaukat Aziz. Even Ayub and Yahya had Bhutto function as their civilian face, if not as prime minister. Two, that Nawaz Sharif was brave but virtuously delusional in hoping that one day, after many trials, Pakistani democracy would take over the country as much as India's. He also saw a normalization with India as key to this. He is now in the saddest phase of his life, mourning his dead project, whatever the riches of his Mar-a-Lago-sized home in Rawalpindi near Lahore, the fact that his brother is now the Prime Minister and daughter the Chief Minister of Punjab, where 60% of Pakistanis live, and his Sambandhi is the Deputy Prime Minister and the External Affairs Minister for Pakistan, it only adds to his humiliation and heartbreak, as melancholy as Bahadur Shah Zafar in Rangoon. And third, some of the understandings of many supposed Pakistani experts, this writer included, have been rendered erroneous, even stupid. That's a confession. In that column on Munir's Fifth Star, I had said Nawaz Sharif asked the partridge or quail question, but what Munir had conjured up was an entirely unique creature where nobody knew who had the power or the credibility within Pakistan. I had described this more as an evolutionary or Darwinian curiosity like duck-billed platypus and the inevitability of extinction facing it. This picture, this Oval Office picture, shows I misread the reality or how Pakistan thinks. To understand how Pakistan thinks, ask yourself how come its people keep electing leaders, sometimes with sizable majorities, and then not only accept the generals firing them, but welcome it midway through the leader's tenure. The nation, its ideology, and its sense of being and national pride are pre-designed for military autocracies. Pakistanis don't feel secure under civilian leaders they elect. They even sit at home when the most popular one is jailed, as if forever. That's Imran Khan now. We've seen the cycle of the army losing its popularity, facing street protests, and yet dramatically recovering and coming back on top. It uses a simple ploy. Just ratchet up a warlike situation with India, and the people will ask, who else will protect them but the army? Like Spark at 26/11 in 2008 and Pahalgam now. At each of those junctures, the Pakistani army's reputation was in tatters. It was in dumps. Just a whiff of threat from India restored what isn't the old or new normal, but an eternal reality in Pakistan. Next, please note that almost every elected leader in Pakistan has made at least one effort to seek peace with India. Nawaz Sharif had the broadest vision. He tried more than once, but the Bhuttos also tried. One of their motivations was, all civilian leaders, one of their motivations was that it would help them throw the yoke of the big boys of the GHQ if they made peace with India. That's precisely the reason each one was dismissed, exiled, jailed, and one even assassinated in anticipation of a return in power. That's Benazir Bhutto. It isn't even about Munir, Musharraf, Zia, or Ayub. This army as an institution cannot afford peace with India. It cannot win wars, but at least a permanent insecurity keeps it in power. Even the chiefs who saw value in peace, Bajwa being the latest example, were disowned and reviled by the institution. Munir is just more extreme and uncluttered than the rest. After Zia, he is the second true Islamist, a Hafiz Quran, one who's memorized the holy book and peppers his speeches in verses in Arabic. His total belief in the scriptures as he's read them also convinces him of the inevitability of India breaking up. And India, he thinks, will break up either by what he sees as India's own contradictions or through his slow burn version of Ghazwa-e-Hind, using terrorist proxies and Chinese military power to keep gaming India's responses and throwing it off focus. India is now dealing with a true believer in its destruction in his lifetime. He believes he will see the destruction of India in his lifetime, which means his time in power. He's got China with him, is wowing the Arabs with the offer to rent them the only army in the Islamic world that's capable of fighting, absorbing modern technology, and following its orders. He personifies what Pakistan thinks, only more starkly than his predecessors. Want to understand how Pakistan thinks and how much of a national revenge state it is? I can promise you that Pakistan eventually will sign up on Abraham Accords or some equivalent of the Abraham Accords and normalize its relationship with Israel much before it will normalize its ties with India. That's how Pakistan's designed. The entire purpose of the state is to fight, undermine, and hopefully destroy India. That is India's challenge. The great destabilizer in White House only adds to our degree of difficulty.